Hi, everyone. Super nice to see you all here today. I'm Hilary Stupa with Qdabra Software, and today we're going to be talking about creating SharePoint dashboards using modern SharePoint views. We have a special guest today, a beloved customer of ours, Richard Sahadi. Richard has developed an innovative solution for creating out-of-the-box dashboards using SharePoint Modern Pages, and he's going to share that with us today. Richard, welcome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization? We'll just get Richard unmuted here.
Okay, well, hey everybody.
I bet you started before you started, but we all do that. So yeah. Hi.
Yeah, I'm Richard Sahadi, and I'm a SharePoint content developer at Prestonwood Baptist Church. We're located in Plano, Texas, and we're a multi-campus church, and about 250 staff members that we support in the IT department. And yeah, we've been using SharePoint since around 2014, and we have about 60 forms that we've converted over to Qdabra Forms Viewer forms. And you know, most of our forms use just a typical a classic SharePoint page for the dashboard that displays multiple views.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been, you know, for the past few years, I've been trying to figure out, well, can we take that type of a dashboard and move it over to a modern view? And so
Yeah.
that's what we're looking at today.
Yeah, because you had some challenges with that, right? Your classic views had options that aren't available to you in modern. Yeah.
Right. So on the classic SharePoint pages, we were able to filter different views using the current user filter.
Mm-hmm.
So we could see, you know, a My Documents view or a current approver view. But those option or that current user filter option, it's not available in the modern view. So what is available is we can take advantage of the person columns that are available in form libraries or document libraries or lists.
Okay. And with the classic views, you guys were just able to use the display name, right? So it would filter just on a piece of text. You didn't have to have a person column in order to filter, right?
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes it tricky to move. And I know we're also going to talk about the target audience piece, because you were able to have these classic views where you also had basically web parts that were hidden.
Right. You know, so the admin viewers could see, you know, everything in that form library using a target audience. And so we've got a different way of displaying that information in the modern view.
Fantastic. And we'll take a look at a high level of your approach and some screenshots, and then we'll have you'll do a demo for us of how you surmounted this obstacle. Your current Qdabra Forms usage, you guys have over 50 templates. You've got, 17,000 opens a month. So you've got a lot of heavy form users, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I think we've got about 60 forms now, and we have a pregnancy center ministry that they're kind of a separate entity, and they use about 15 forms.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a lot going on.
Yeah,
Right.
high user environment. Mm-hmm. For
Yeah.
sure. For
But this
sure.
is a internal. All of these forms that we use are for internal purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why a lot of our forms are just using like just the basic SharePoint dashboard,
That's a
out of the
great
box.
point. Yeah, your users are already in SharePoint, right? Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah, so you were able, using Qdabra Forms and modern views, to create a solution that allows you to have similar dashboards to what you were doing in Classic, right? You
Yeah.
mentioned the person or group fields.
Yeah. And so we're using a submit to SharePoint list Qdabra command that allows us to talk with the SharePoint like list or library person columns because you can't when you're saving an info path form, you can't save directly to those columns to update them. So we're using this submit to SharePoint list command
Mm-hmm.
to talk with them, and then we can create our views based on the me filter
Mm-hmm.
um, and filter off of those person columns to get the different views like the My Documents, or if there are forms that need approval, to get the pending My Approval view.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And you mentioned that you're using audience targeting on navigation links in the sidebar. And then I noted you pasted a little CSS in the chat. Is that the CSS mentioned here? You're using a little site CSS to keep users from finding things they shouldn't see?
Right. So yeah, that's to hide like the site contents links,
Oh.
or and also to hide the site, the search bar at the top. At the top of modern pages, you have to search the site. So that hides that, but we'll look at how we can get a search bar in certain scenarios.
Great point, that there's just some things in an environment where you may not want users to see all these things. And then another thing you'd mentioned in your forms is that you're using a custom QRules command to return users to the correct page depending on their action. So if I
Right.
submit a form, I go back to the My Documents or My Forms view, or if I approve a form, I would go back to the Pending Approvals view, right? Help the user end up where they need to be.
Yes. Right.
Awesome. That's well thought out. I like that idea. So I've got some screenshots of what you're going to demo for us. So this, you can see, is just this My Request page, and I can just see My Request pending my approval and this info, but I don't have, there's really nothing else, right? It's just that this is kind of the more locked down view.
Yeah, exactly. And so you look at the top, there's no search bar,
Mm-hmm.
um, because the search bar at the top is a search this site search bar. So it's gonna reveal a lot of things that for security's sake, you just don't want people to be able to see. And
Mm.
it's really not very good for searching a particular form library either. So we've hidden that with a CSS.
Nice. Yeah, and you've already got this constrained view, so how much searching do I need to do? I can sort and filter right here to be able to find what I need for sure. And then here's a pending my approval page. So these are the things that require action, right? My action.
Hmm.
Perfect.
And so there's it's the requested by column there that is that's the person column that's being filtered. Actually, there's two. There's a current approver and the requested by. So this particular view is filtering off of the current approver person column.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And you're just submitting those via submit to SharePoint list command. And then you're using a document library to store these XMLs. Why did you choose to move to a document library?
Well, I just wanted to see how far we could get away from, for number one, the classic SharePoint pages, and get away from InfoPath form services altogether. Because I know that in 2026, Microsoft is going to stop it, And as far as, I don't know how far they're going to take it, if form libraries are still going to be working or not. But so so I wanted to see how far I could take this using a doc library.
Mm-hmm.
And so as far as I can tell, there hasn't been any limitations.
And you
Um,
just used Forms Designer to publish your form to your document library and promote your columns.
Correct. Yeah, you can't use InfoPath to publish to the doc library. You've got to use the Qdabra Forms designer
Mm-hmm.
to yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and then that lets you publish to a doc library, which gives you between modern views and using a document library instead of an InfoPath form library, it gives you a little bit more future proofing, doesn't it? It gives you a little a
Yeah,
little more sense. You sleep nights, right? That's what we're
right.
getting at. You sleep nights.
Yeah,
Um,
that's an idea.
yeah,
So
yeah. And so this is the view I would see if I was an admin. I've got this additional admin view, admin tools. I can search. I've got a lot more going on. The CSS that you pasted for us, that only gets applied it for some views or some people, or well, you'll show
right.
us.
So on the my request view or the pending my approval view, we've got CSS that's hiding the search this site search bar,
Uh-huh.
but on the admin view, this is a link that's taking you directly to the form library,
Mm,
because when you're in the actual form library, you have a search this library search bar.
I see.
Uh, so it's specifically searching the library versus the site.
Right.
Um,
And only admins are going to have that link to the admin view.
yeah, and so typically on the in our environment, the search bar is really only necessary for the admin view, because just the amount of stuff that's being submitted, it's not like in the hundreds for per person, so they don't really need a search bar,
Mm-hmm.
but the admin users are going to need a search bar. So
Sure. And then the pending my approval stuff, well, that stuff churns out. You've got, I mean, theoretically, right? Hopefully you've got 20 things for approval. You approve them and they move forward. So yeah, it's
exactly,
not like that should get very big. Makes sense.
yeah.
Makes sense. And let's see what else we have here. Oh, this was a screenshot of your SharePoint mapping. Just it's kind of, I think, good to highlight that. Whoa, that slide skittered away from me fast. It's good to highlight this. I think if you are mapping a person or group, you select, because you and I did a little experimentation to make sure we knew how this worked. You select the person folder. So it's the person folder. You map it to the person column and you select that it's a person option. And what's the other
Mhm.
thing we discovered? We discovered that you have to have that account ID field inside the person group populated for this to work correctly. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes. Yeah, and we can take a look at that.
Let's do. Yeah, let's hit a demo. Why don't you let me you should are you able to just share? I don't have to do anything more. I made you an
Let me see.
organizer.
Okay, so if I go to the sharing at the top, is it show or
Yeah, I would think show. Why don't you try show? I could pause.
let me try to make me the presenter here, if that
Okay.
helps. Okay.
It
Sorry, I
says
got a little.
it says we're waiting to view your screen, so I think we're making progress.
Okay, yeah, I'm just setting up my Mac privacy and security. Let's see if it'll do this here. Um,
Yeah, well, you're getting that set up. So the one other thing that was a little tricky with this, if I'm recalling correctly, is we had to first time we submitted our form because we were using SubmitToSharePointList as well. We submitted the form, did a query to get back the correct list item ID for the form, so we had the item ID of the item that we needed to do the submit to SharePoint list for, so we could populate that metadata.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you able to see my screen okay?
Yep,
Or
sure
hopefully?
can. Yeah, we can.
Great. Okay, yeah, and just for reference, this is the classic version of this form. So this is a key request form. It has approvals, what we've talked about already. And so we have like the My Requests, view of the form library, request needing my approval. And here's that current user filter that's filtering off of this next approver field and filtering off of the submitter name. And I've got some just information about how the email notifications work, and there's links on here for the admins to update certain like list items in the form, and here's the admin view. So that's what we're coming from, and we're taking that and moving it to this setup here. And so, yeah, here's all the different views, and this is what the standard user will see. And then on these navigation links here, there's a target audience set on the links, so standard users aren't able to see this. And so I've got like the the info section just has all the information talking about how the email submissions work, and here's the admin view with the search this library. Sorry, let me mute that here. Everything's going off at once. Sorry about that. Let me go back here. And these are just the admin tools that the admins can see. And then here's just the navigation link to how only I can see this navigation link here. But yeah, I'm going to go back to this pending my approval, and I'll open up one of these key requests. Okay, and then I have an approval section here where I need to approve this, so I'm just going to approve it and then submit. And I have a custom URL, custom open URL command on these approval section submit buttons that's going to direct me back to the pending my approval page, so I can just continue on and approve these. And okay, and just so on this particular view, I took away the CSS.
Mm-hmm.
So you would be able to see like this, search the site, just so you could see like some of the things that you wouldn't want them to be able to see, like these items here. And
Right,
then
those are
like,
intended for the admins to see, not just for anyone to see. Sure.
and the CSS is, if it was on the page, it would be hiding like the site contents and a lot of these other links here that you just don't want your standard users to be able to get to.
And how do you apply that CSS to the page?
Yeah, let me, I'll edit this page here.
If you don't mind showing us, I think that would be useful
Yeah,
to
that's
know.
pretty important because I had to download this third-party modern script editor web part
Mm-hmm.
and install that in SharePoint, because that's another thing that's not available with modern views. It's the script editor web part. So I've installed that, and then if we edit the snippet, here's that code, and here's the code that's hiding the links in the settings here.
Mm-hmm.
And then here is the CSS for hiding the search bar.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how I've done that.
Awesome.
Okay, and I just have a new button here that is just opening up a new form. And here's all my requests.
For your custom command that's returning the user to the page, is that just what is that command? Custom open URL?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Custom URL.
Custom open URL, and that has the option of opening the URL in the same page.
Right. And let me show one other thing. So this is this my request page. It's, I just created a modern page, and if we look at this, is using a form library or a document library web part.
Okay.
And so I'm hiding the command bar and hiding the see all button, auto sizing it to fit the number of items.
Right. So all
It's
that's just straight out of the box stuff. The only thing you're doing here that isn't straight out of the box is using that modern script editor to hide some things on the page you don't want the user to see.
right, right.
And you've got a new request button, and that just opens up your Forms viewer form.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
And yeah, are there any questions so far?
Suzanne had a question about the custom command for returning the user to the request page, to the correct page. But I answered that because I'm sure it's a custom open URL. I can double check that, Suzanne, and get that to you later. But I'm pretty sure it was the same one we covered in training recently for
Yeah.
opening a
And
URL.
yeah, I can show the those submit buttons.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I was going to move on to just a little bit of what it looks like in the form designer.
Awesome.
If there are any more questions about just how the dashboard is set up. But yeah, just one more. I just want to clarify. So on these my requests and the pending my approval, it's just a standard SharePoint page with a document library web part added to the page. But with the admin view, this is just a link that's taking me directly to the form library, and it's showing, it's taking me directly to that admin view, so the admins can get to these other views. It's not as locked down as the my requests or the pending my approval pages, but but it does allow them to see the search the library, get them to search the search option there.
Can you go back to the My Requests and show us again the settings on that web part? There was a question about the standard menu and the new button, and I think you showed that as being hidden as part of the web part settings. Is that correct? The standard menu that you see with a library web part like this? Go ahead and put this in
Yeah,
edit
just
mode, and let's look at the web part properties again.
sorry. Let's see.
There we go. So it's the hide command bar. Is that what we're, if you
Yeah, let me just turn
over.
that on and we'll apply it. And
Okay. Oh, there it is.
you know,
Yep,
right.
that's the ticket right there, the hide command and the see all button. Got it. So that's just built-in stuff. That's nice to know about in modern pages. Great. Thanks for showing us that a second time.
Sure.
Excellent. All right.
Okay.
If you want to pop us over to Forms Designer and show us what you've got going on here.
Yeah, so this is the mapping file that's necessary to be able to talk with the we're talking to two-person columns, the requested by and or requested by here in the current approver columns to get those two different views. And we're also mapping to an to get the ID of the form. So we have a hidden, it's a hidden field in the form that we've created called SHPID. And so that field is storing the ID of the form. And Yeah, so this is kind of what the mapping looks like. And if we just want to look at the publishing, so this is how I'm able to publish to a document library.
Yeah, you set the publish location here using the publish location button, and then we're able to publish it to a document library. And one thing I do want to touch on the SharePoint mapping, at this time, Forms Designer doesn't support mapping to libraries out of the box. So what we did was we created a list that had the same named columns. We used that for the mapping, and then inside the form and the form logic, we changed the list name to your library name. So if anybody on the call needs help mapping data to a SharePoint library, please just let me know. I'm happy to help you with this technique.
Yeah, it's a little tricky.
It's a little, there's some tricks in there. It was a little tricky.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then if I pop over to info path, I wanted to show you how the submit buttons are set up. So the rule and the rules that we had to create, the first rule, we're just calling it initial submit. And so there's an action that's, it submits to the SharePoint library. And this is just giving it the file name. That's not super important, but then we're querying the, we had to add a data connection to this key request doc library. And that data connection is necessary to get the ID of that form and set this SHPID field.
And to clarify, that title field we're setting to the file name. The file name is unique perform, and that title field is actually the query field in the key request doc library data connection. So we're setting that to the unique file name. We're executing the query so that we get back exactly one row, the row for this particular file, and then we're setting the SharePoint ID to the ID of this item. That way, when we do our SharePoint list submit, we are updating the correct item. Very important thing to do. We don't want to update the wrong thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so this SHPID is this field here, and that's storing the ID of the form. If we just kind of click on that, and then so this ID field is pointing to our key request doc library data connection, right? And it's getting it from data fields ID right there. So that's how that's getting that. And then the next rule is submitting to those to that mapping, I guess.
Yep, that's your submit to SharePoint list command, and that's the one that's updating your person or group fields right there. And as I mentioned, we did our mapping to a, I'm going to call it a pseudo list for lack of a better word. You know, we created this list that had same named columns to make mapping easy, and then all we have to do is just change it over to the correct name. It's the type of thing that you could, you know, theoretically, once you know you're all done with things, you could go delete that initial list, but it made things easy for the mapping.
Yeah, and so here's this submit to SharePoint list command, and then the last rule is another submit to the SharePoint library. So yeah, you're doing like 3 submits as opposed to one, you know, one regular submit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, and let me see if I've. So, you know, in part of the, we need to. I want to see if I can find those rules about getting the account name of each person that's going to be like the next approver. Let's see if I can find that. Yeah,
Oh yeah, you're
okay.
using get user profile by name. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so the next approver in this instance is just a static, uh, you know, something static here. So the next approver is going to be this test user, SharePoint user. You know, that could be, you know, John Doe or whatever, right? but we need to get the account ID out of this, and so we're using the command, and we're using this this get user profile by name, and let me see this, and that's looking at this this next approver display name, and then we're getting the, let's see, the then I'm also getting the account ID from there, and let's see, and then we're getting the next approver email here. I don't know, am I explaining that right, Hillary?
Yeah, well, basically what it came down to is we had, you and I found when we were setting this up that there were challenges because we had to have the user's account ID in that person or group field in order for submit to SharePoint list to basically work with a person field. Makes sense. The account ID is the thing that's working off of. And you didn't have that for some of these users. I do want to highlight that get user profile using the display name. Team Qdabra is a little shocked that works at all. So as I mentioned to you, we have seen that not necessarily work in the past. So if someone is setting this up on their own, it's best if you have the account name, but this seems to be working for you for these users that you need it for. And I know you and I discussed that via email. I just have to do my due diligence and mention that here, that get user profile by display name is kind of, we're not sure why that's working.
Yeah, I think the reason why it works for us is because we when we create our IT accounts, there's not any like duplicate display names. You know, so if you have two display names that are exactly the same, then it's gonna, but potentially return the wrong account ID.
Got it.
But the way we've set up our Active Directory, they're all unique,
Yeah.
and so it works for us.
It works for you, yeah, and that's good, and I'm glad it has been. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Pretty cool beans. Anything else you want to show in the form?
I think that's everything. Oh, that's pretty much all I wanted to show in the form. Now, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about some of the other challenges.
Please do.
So, like, now that I've created this doc library, one of my next challenges is going to be moving the requests that are in the original form library. I need to move those into the new doc library. But when I do that, I need to, I've created a Power Automate workflow, or Hillary did. I didn't.
We did. It was a group effort. It was together.
So you need a workflow that when those items get moved into the doc library, that the workflow looks at the submitter column and updates the new person column that submitter column is related to.
Oh, that's right, because your old forms, I forgot about this, and you emailed me about it too, but your old forms, they're not going to have values in these promoted there, because these aren't promoted properties. These are additional columns that you're setting via submit to SharePoint list. So when you move the old XML, all of those columns that you're leveraging for these views, they're going to be empty.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the requested by field and the current approver field, and so the work is going to update those for you. So that's something to consider, that you're going to need to to do when
If you're
moving them.
migrating, yeah, absolutely. If you're migrating stuff over, you need to have a way to go through and populate those columns. And we were able for you to use an Office 365 user search in the flow based on that display name, which we had. You've got display name promoted. That's what you were using in your old solution. So when you copy those XML into the library, we have display name promoted, and we can go ahead and just leverage that to go get the correct user group. It's also possible, everybody listening to this, to get that data from inside the XML if necessary. Just so you know, if it wasn't something you had promoted, you can get XML data out of an XML file in Power Automate. It is not fun, it's not pretty, but it's doable. So yeah, just another option. Cool.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much everything. So does anybody have any other questions, or did I?
Yeah, I think you did a great job of explaining what you've been up to, and I really appreciate you going through this with us. I've been kind of answering questions as they came along because thankfully I knew the answers to most of them because you and I had collaborated on some pieces of this. At any rate, I know this has been a kind of a longer term goal for you, getting some of these classic things moved, finding ways to use modern views for what you need to do. And I'm really glad that you've found a workable solution. Do you feel like this is a solution you'll be able to carry forward on other forms with reasonable comfort? Like it wasn't too onerous?
Well, it wasn't too terrible. You know, it's definitely, adding more complexity to your form to set this up.
Oh, true.
Um,
Good point.
so that's something to consider. And if I move forward with this, I'll have to, I've got 59 other forms that I would, need to apply this to. So, what I may do is, um, I, I'm thinking I might just move all of my forms to doc libraries
Mm-hmm.
first, and then create the dashboards, the modern dashboards later at another time. I'm still, I'm, s- you know, what my plan really is to implement this particular solution.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't, my users aren't using it yet, so I just want to implement it and then get feedback and go from there. Um,
Good plan.
so,
Well, because
and
user adoption is what matters, right? We've got to have solutions that our users will use. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm also looking at central flows. So I'm going to be testing that out and this and um, you know and making the best decision. So, but yeah.
Yeah. And we just had a question about, what about, InfoPath forms? What if Microsoft doesn't continue? And I'm responding to it, but I'm also going to reply verbally. Well, I can't because I can't apparently type and talk at the same time. At any rate, there was a question about InfoPath Forms. Qdabra Forms has a designer piece. We are working on it constantly. Richard showed a little bit of it when he was showing his SharePoint mapping piece, his property promotion, and his publishing piece. It is not quite yet at parity with InfoPath, but it is something we are working on continuously in order to make sure there is a solution when Microsoft actually makes it so we can no longer keep using InfoPath on our like whatever Windows 14 machines or when that happens. So yeah, we are working on that. Forms design Forms Viewer has been a robust and well adopted solution for InfoPath Form services. Users can use that for filling their forms out. Forms Designer is the piece that will help take forms into the future as we continue moving forward with that. And I do have, a few additional slides here just on Forms Viewer and Forms Designer and how they work. I'm going to click through them kind of quickly. Just has some basic information. You'll be able to access the presentation later. There's some details, an info link, and an overview video. At any rate, if you do still have InfoPath forms, Qdabra Forms is a great way to continue using that investment. Will protect you from Microsoft taking away InfoPath Form services, and we're working to make sure there's a replacement for InfoPath Designer. Richard, I just want to thank you so much for your volunteering to share this with all of us. I was just thrilled when you emailed me and Dan told me that you had this solution working to your liking and that you were wondering if other customers might be interested in it. Your willingness to share your knowledge is just one of the many things I really value about you. So thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Hillary, and thanks for all your help. You've been
Well,
great
I
with
love
all.
collaborating with you. You are such a sharp cookie. Cookies are round. Can they really be sharp? But you pick up on stuff and you just run with it. So yeah, it's just great. I just really appreciate it. Everyone, as usual, you can find me at hillary.stupa@qdabra.com. You can find Qdabra at support@qdabra.com. Please, if you have any questions about this, if you need any help, drop me a line. I'm always happy to help you. I'll send a follow-up email in a little bit with information about where you can access the presentation, so you've got the slides. And also, we recently did a training class for forms, for Qdabra Forms. If you would like a link to download those training videos, just let me know. I've got it for you, and I'm happy to send it to you. If you are someone on this call who attended training class, I've uploaded all the videos to Hightail so that they are easy to download and access, because we had a bunch of challenges accessing team videos during class. So at any rate, thanks again, everyone, for spending time with me today. I really appreciate you all. And yeah, have a great rest of your year. Enjoy the beginning of 2024. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Richard. Bye.